I had never missed a family wedding, not once. I'd shown up for every cousin, every second cousin, every twice-removed uncle someone swore was important. Ties, suits, awkward toasts, I did them all. Because when you marry someone, you don't just get their love. You get their whole tangled mess of a family. And I embraced it, every single time. So when my sister-in-law Jessica sent out wedding invites, I assumed mine was already in the mail. After all, I helped her move into her first apartment, fixed her car when it wouldn't start, drove 4 hours one winter to surprise her on her birthday with a damn homemade cake because my wife said it would mean something. So yeah, I thought I'd be there. I wore a navy suit, tied the knot tight, even picked up a card with one of those cheesy but heartfelt poems on it and tucked in a generous gift card. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I just wanted to be present, be supportive. The ceremony was at some upscale vineyard just outside town. White tents, string lights. You could smell the money in the parking lot. I got there early, just like I always do. Then I walked up to the entry. And the man in a black suit and earpiece held up a hand. Name: David Harrow, I said with a nod, adjusting my tie. Groom side, brother-in-law. He scanned the list, then scanned it again, then again. I'm sorry, he said, you're not on the list. I blinked, laughed a little. No, I'm her sister's husband. It must be there. Check again. He gave a tight, polite smile, then turned the clipboard toward me. There it was. I read the names aloud under my breath. Jessica Callahan, +1, Madison Callahan. Madison Callahan. I froze. That was my wife. Except she wasn't going by my last name anymore. And her +1. It wasn't me. It was some man named Eli. The security guy gave me a look, half pity, half discomfort. Sir, I'm gonna have to ask you to step aside. I felt everything shift inside me, the heat in my chest, the pounding in my ears. I stepped back like the air had just gotten thinner. That's when I realized it wasn't a mistake. It was intentional. She didn't just forget to include me. She'd erased me. I stood in the parking lot for 20 minutes, staring at the gift bag in my hands. I looked like a fool. A man in a suit holding a card he never got to give. A ghost who thought he still belonged. And in that moment, everything changed. I drove for hours that night with no real destination. Just me, my suit jacket tossed in the back seat, the card still unopened on the passenger side like a joke I hadn't gotten a punchline to. Every now and then, I'd glance at it, curled edges, glittery gold font, to the happy couple. It felt like holding a love letter meant for someone else's life. I ended up at a gas station 30 miles north, parked under the humming neon of a half-lit sign. I sat there with the engine off, radio low, and the taste of betrayal sitting at the back of my throat like something sour I couldn't spit out. I stared at my phone. I hadn't texted her yet. Part of me wanted to ask her what the hell was going on, how she could erase me so completely. But another part, the part that remembered the way her voice had grown cold over the last few months, how she stopped laughing at my jokes, how she started sleeping closer to the edge of the bed, that part already knew the answer. She hadn't forgotten me. She'd outgrown me. Or at least, convinced herself she had. I thought about calling my buddy Nate, but it was late and I didn't want to hear his, "I told you so." Because he had told me, quietly, kindly, but still. The way her phone suddenly stayed face down. The nights out she didn't explain. The "don't wait up" texts. He noticed. I ignored it. Because love makes you stupid like that. You see the fire, but you convince yourself it's just warm light. Eventually, I drove home. The house was still dark when I pulled up. Her car wasn't there. No surprise. Not after what I'd seen. I left the gift in the front seat, walked inside, and loosened my tie like it was a noose I'd just stepped away from. I didn't sleep. I just sat on the couch, lights off, staring into the kind of silence that only shows up when you realize someone left long before they packed their bags. Around 3 a.m., her key turned in the door. She froze when she saw me sitting there. "David," she said, startled. "What are you doing up?" I didn't answer. Just looked at her, really looked. Her hair done up, makeup faded, that expensive dress she'd bought for work events still hugging her like she wanted it to say something her mouth wouldn't. She set her heels down by the door, slowly, like she thought noise might set me off. "I was at Jessica's wedding," she said, as if I hadn't already been there, and denied. I nodded once. "Yeah, I know. I went." She went pale. "You went?" she echoed, voice thin. "I was invited, or so I thought. Showed up, had a gift, suit, everything." I kept my tone flat. Funny thing, though. The guest list didn't have my name. She swallowed. David, but it did have yours, I interrupted. And someone named Eli. Silence. I could hear the refrigerator hum behind us. Could feel her excuses lining up behind her lips. I didn't know how to tell you, she whispered. I let out a dry laugh. So you let a stranger tell me instead. A security guard, no less. You let him be the one to explain that I'm not even part of your life anymore. She stepped forward. It wasn't like that. I stood. Then what was it like? I asked. What do you call it when a man finds out he's been replaced, not through a conversation, but through a guest list? Her eyes welled up. David, I was going to talk to you. After the wedding. Of course, I said bitterly. After your sister got her perfect pictures. Wouldn't want a divorce in the family album, right? She turned away, covering her mouth like the truth might crawl out of it if she wasn't careful. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't throw anything. Didn't beg. I just walked into the bedroom and grabbed my journal off the nightstand, sat on the edge of the bed, opened to a clean page, and wrote. She didn't leave me, not with a bag, or a scream, or a slammed door. She just deleted me, like a typo, on a wedding invitation, and I didn't get mad. I just took the pen back. When I came back out, she was gone again. Only this time, I didn't wait for her return. 2 days passed before I heard from her again. No calls. No messages. Just a quiet void where a marriage used to be. The kind of silence that didn't ask for forgiveness, it asked for distance. It was Monday morning when I finally got the text. Madison, I think we should talk. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering over the reply button, heart oddly still. Not angry. Not even surprised anymore. Just, resigned. Like someone watching the final scene of a movie they already knew the ending to. I responded with a simple, tomorrow. 6, at the house. Then I turned the phone off. Not to punish her. I just needed a full day without flinching at every vibration. Without bracing myself for another apology dressed as an excuse. That night, I crashed on Nate's couch again. He didn't ask questions, just handed me a drink and changed the subject to football. That's how you know a real friend, they let you bleed in peace. You still love her? He asked during a commercial break. I stared at the ceiling. I think I love who I thought she was, I said. I think I'm mourning a version of her that never really existed. He nodded slowly. Grief without a funeral. That's a hell of a thing. The next day, I went back to the house early. Not because I missed it, but because I needed to face it. Needed to see the couch where we had our first argument. The kitchen table where I once knelt with a ring and shaking hands. The hallway she used to walk down barefoot, humming songs I couldn't name. I sat on the back porch and opened my journal. The wind pushed through the trees like it was trying to tell me something I already knew. I wrote, this house has seen love, and loss, and dinners where no one looked up. It's held apologies, and silences, and the sound of a laugh. That stopped meaning anything. But today, it'll hear the truth. At 5:58 p.m., her car pulled up. She stepped out wearing jeans and a sweater like she wanted to seem smaller, softer. She knocked, even though it was still technically her home. That told me everything about where we stood. I opened the door. We didn't hug, didn't even sit down. She stood in the entryway, arms crossed over her chest, like someone preparing for a confession and a consequence. I didn't mean for it to happen like that, she said. The wedding, Eli, all of it. You mean you didn't mean for me to find out the way I did, I replied. She winced but didn't deny it. I didn't know how to leave without breaking everything. I raised an eyebrow. So instead, you broke it behind my back. She looked away. It wasn't just you. It was me too. I felt disconnected for a long time. I didn't know how to say it. Didn't know how, or didn't want to. I asked, because you managed to tell him. She blinked fast. It wasn't serious. Not at first. And now, she hesitated. Now it is. I nodded. So that's what I was. A placeholder. Something to keep warm while you waited for something else to feel right. She wiped her eyes. That's not fair. No, what's not fair, I said, is being erased from your life like I was a phase. Like everything we built was just scaffolding for your next version of happiness. I loved you, she whispered. No, I said, you loved being loved. You loved being chosen. But when the shine wore off, you didn't fight. You replaced me. She didn't argue. Didn't plead. And that, more than anything, sealed it. I'll have the papers drawn up this week, I said. She nodded, swallowing hard. As she turned to leave, I called after her. One more thing. She turned back, eyes full of guilt and endings. Next time you rewrite your story, I said, just don't forget, you don't need to erase someone else to become someone new. She left without another word. I walked back inside and sat on the stairs. Didn't cry, didn't shout. I just opened my journal and wrote. She didn't shatter me, she simply vanished. And in her silence, I remembered how loud it used to feel when someone truly loved you. The day the divorce papers were finalized, I didn't tell anyone. I didn't post about it, didn't text the guys, didn't even mention it when Mia called that evening to tell me she aced her math quiz. I just nodded at the courthouse clerk, signed the final page, and stepped out into the afternoon light with a strange weightlessness pressing against my chest. It wasn't freedom I felt, not yet. It was more like the absence of captivity. You don't realize how heavy someone's silence is until you finally set it down. I drove back to the house, well, technically my house now, and stood in the foyer like it was the first time I'd ever seen the place. The walls were still the same pale gray she'd picked out 2 years ago. The furniture hadn't moved, but something had shifted. It didn't feel like a home anymore. It felt like a stage after the show's over. Lights off, curtains drawn, no applause. I spent the next few hours boxing up everything that carried her fingerprint. The wine glasses she insisted on buying even though we rarely drank. The framed quotes about growing together that she never followed. The throw pillows that somehow cost more than my work boots. It wasn't an act of spite. It was reclamation. Each item I packed wasn't just a thing, it was a memory I no longer needed to host. A version of us I was done pretending still lived here. While I worked, I put on music. Not to drown anything out, but to fill the room. Tom Petty, a little Otis Redding, some of the old stuff she always rolled her eyes at. Now it belonged to me again, and I sang every word like a man who remembered his voice. By sundown, I had 4 boxes by the door, labeled, hers. Not mine anymore. I didn't text her to come get them. I just left a note. Take what you need, what you earned, what still matters. The rest will be donated. D. That night, I sat at the kitchen table with a bottle of decent bourbon, my journal, and the kind of silence that doesn't ache anymore. I flipped to a fresh page and wrote. Divorce doesn't sound like a gavel. It sounds like tape on cardboard. Like breathing with your mouth open. Like a front door that doesn't wait for permission to close. She left long before she left. I just finally stopped, holding the door open. The next morning, I called Mia. I asked if she wanted to come by that weekend, help me repaint the guest room. Turn it into her new space, somewhere she could hang her drawings, put up fairy lights, do homework or just exist. She said yes before I even finished the sentence. I want purple, she said firmly. You got it, I replied. Any shade you want. You okay, Dad? I paused. Not because I didn't know the answer, because I wanted to be sure I said it right. I'm better than I've been in a long time. And it was true. I wasn't healed, but I wasn't broken either. I was somewhere in between. Somewhere new. That Saturday, she showed up with a paint sample booklet and a fire in her eyes. We spent the whole day taping edges, spilling primer, arguing over whether lavender or eggplant was cooler. She painted a big crooked heart on the wall just before we finished and asked if we could leave it there under the new color. To remember how it started, she said. I stared at that crooked heart, and for the first time in a long time, I felt something begin. That night, after she fell asleep on the couch in one of my old sweatshirts, I sat on the back steps with my journal in hand and wrote. A new coat of paint, a crooked heart underneath, a daughter who still sees. The man worth showing up for. This is how the next chapter starts. Not with revenge, not with regret, but with a roller dipped in purple. And the soft voice of someone, who never stopped, believing in me. The heart dried under 2 coats of lilac paint. You couldn't see it anymore, not with your eyes. But I knew it was there. That crooked shape Mia had brushed on with too much paint and too much pride. She called it our symbol, like we were founding a country and that wall was our flag. And maybe, in a way, we were. A new country. Population, too. Just me and her. Just healing in presence. After she left Sunday night, the quiet settled in again, but it didn't press down like it used to. It didn't creep. It just existed. Like a roommate that finally learned not to walk too loud. I sat in the living room with a cup of coffee and looked around at all the things that hadn't changed, and how little they mattered now. The walls were still gray. The couch still sagged in the spot where she always curled up. But the memories didn't sting anymore. They just passed through me like a breeze. I reached for the box labeled hers that I'd left in the hallway. She hadn't picked it up yet, and I wasn't going to chase her down to remind her. But something pulled me to open it one last time. Inside, An old Polaroid from our first vacation. A beach sunset, sand still clinging to our feet, her smile still real. I sat there holding it, trying to remember what it felt like to be the version of myself who believed that smile meant forever. And then I tucked it back into the box. Because sometimes letting go doesn't mean burning everything. It just means choosing not to carry it with you anymore. That night I wrote in the journal. Some memories are knives. Some are mirrors. Some are just paper, fading from too much sun. I'm done giving weight to things that never asked to be permanent. The next day, Claire called. She said a shipment came in, and one of the books had my name written all over it. I didn't write it, she joked. But it feels like you could've. I stopped by that afternoon. The bookstore smelled like cedar and coffee, some new candle she must have lit near the register. She handed me the book with a grin and a post-it stuck to the front. Read page 86. I flipped through it right there at the counter. Page 86. The people who leave without warning teach you the sound of your own breath better than anyone else ever could. I looked up at her. That was unfairly accurate. She smiled. You're not the first one I've handed that to. We talked for a bit. Just talked. Nothing romantic. Nothing implied. Just two people who knew what it meant to be left, and what it took to stay upright after it. Before I left, she reached into a drawer and pulled out a small leather keychain. Someone left it here a while ago and never came back, she said. It says, Onward. I figured you'd like it. I turned it over in my palm. Simple. Worn. Real. I do, I said. Thanks. That night, I attached it to my house keys. Hung them on the hook by the door. Let them settle into their new place like I was settling into mine. Then I poured a drink, opened the journal, and wrote. Not all strangers are strangers forever. Some just show up when silence needs a witness. Some hand you books. And call you by your name. Without expecting you to shrink. She didn't save me, but she didn't ask me to apologize. For saving myself. And for once, that was enough. 3 weeks passed without a word from Madison. No calls. No texts. Not even a polite check-in about the boxes I'd left by the door. At first, I expected something. A guilt-fueled late-night message. An apology that showed up a month too late. But instead, I got the kind of silence that doesn't ask for forgiveness. It just hopes to be forgotten. And strangely, I didn't mind. Because by then, I'd stopped waiting for her name to light up my phone. I had other things to show up for. Like Mia, who now spent every Wednesday and every other weekend at my place. She started calling the Lilac guest room her studio, even though she mostly just did homework and drew doodles on the walls with erasable markers. I didn't stop her. Hell, I even handed her a pack of new ones and told her to go wild. Because that's what this space was now, a blank page. A room for color, not control. One Friday night, we were sitting on the living room floor eating tacos when she looked up and said, "You smile more now." I froze mid-bite. What? You didn't used to. Not really. I set the taco down. You were always nice, Dad. But your face looked tired all the time. Even when you were joking. I didn't know what to say to that. So I just nodded. She leaned her head against my arm. I like this version of you. It was such a simple sentence. But it landed like truth always does, sharp, clean, and right between the ribs. After she went to bed, I opened the sliding door to the backyard and stepped outside, journal in hand. The night was quiet except for the faint hum of far-off traffic and a few crickets refusing to call it quits for the season. I sat on the porch steps, flipped to a fresh page, and wrote. She saw it. The girl who watched me stay quiet, for years, finally saw the difference. In the way I breathe now. Not because I'm healed, but because I'm not hiding my hurt behind duty anymore. Saturday morning came with an unexpected knock. Claire. She stood on my porch holding 2 coffees and a bag that smelled suspiciously like cinnamon rolls. I was in the neighborhood, she said. You live across town. She smirked. Your point. I stepped aside and let her in. Mia peeked out from the hallway and grinned when she saw the cinnamon bag. You brought Claire rolls? She asked, already sprinting toward the table. That what they're called now? Claire laughed. They are if I get 2. We ate together. Talked. Laughed. No tension. No subtext. Just warmth. At some point, Claire excused herself to use the bathroom. Mia leaned over and whispered, "You like her." I raised an eyebrow. "She's a friend." Mia shrugged like she already knew where this story would go. "She likes you too. I can tell." I didn't respond. Because I wasn't ready to name it yet. Not love. Not even the beginning of it. Just a steady pulse. A door that wasn't locked. A room that didn't feel like it was waiting to collapse. Later that day, after Claire left and Mia was drawing in her studio, I sat alone with the journal again. This time, the words came easy. Maybe peace doesn't walk in with a banner. Maybe it knocks on your door, with coffee, and listens to your kid talk about paint colors. Maybe it doesn't flirt. Maybe it just shows up, and stays, even when you don't know how to say, you need it. I closed the book and leaned back in the chair, watching the sunlight crawl across the floor. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but for the first time in years, I didn't fear it. Monday morning, an email from my lawyer popped up as I poured my second cup of coffee. Subject line, final statement, divorce settlement filed. Just those words sitting there in bold, like a period placed at the end of a chapter one hadn't realized I'd already finished writing. I clicked it open, skimmed the content, read the numbers and agreements and signed lines. Her name was there. So was mine. Together one last time, but only on paper. Legally concluded. There was no anger, no sharp inhale, just a slow, strange breath that told me something final had happened, and that it was okay. I walked into the living room, sunlight spilling through the window, and sat on the edge of the couch. For a moment, I just stared at the wall across from me, the one Mia had covered in sticky notes with little scribbles and affirmations. My favorite was still there. We don't need magic. We have pancakes. She'd written that after I burnt the second batch and we laughed until we cried. She called it our spell, said it made bad mornings better. That note was still holding strong, like a flag in fresh ground. Later that day, I dropped by Claire's bookstore. I didn't text her first. Didn't ask if it was okay. I just walked in. She was rearranging a display near the front, stood up straight when she saw me. Hey, stranger. I held up a small paper bag. Trade you coffee for conversation. She smiled. That's the best deal I've gotten all week. We sat at the back, our usual corner. I didn't tell her right away. We talked about Mia's latest drawing phase, about a customer who insisted Hemingway was overrated. She told me about a poetry night that flopped so hard only 3 people showed up, and one of them was her cousin. We laughed. Then I finally said it. The divorce is official. She was quiet for a moment, not tense, just present. Do you feel different? Yeah, I said. Not in a fireworks kind of way. More like, the wind finally stopped blowing against me. She nodded. You look lighter. I feel lighter, I said. Not because it didn't hurt, but because I carried the hurt long enough. There was something in her eyes then, something unspoken, soft. Can I show you something? She asked. Always. She went behind the counter and returned with a small, cloth-bound book. This came in last week, she said. I saved it for you. I opened it. A collection of short stories. All about letting go. All about rebuilding. Inside the front cover, she'd scribbled a note. Some endings aren't losses. They're doorways in disguise. I looked at her. She didn't flinch. She didn't lean in either. She just waited. Let me sit with it. Let me choose what to say next. That's what I liked most about her. She never reached faster than I was ready to be held. That night, I took the book home. I didn't open it. Not yet. Instead, I sat on the back porch, barefoot, journal open on my lap, moonlight creeping across the grass like it was looking for a place to settle. And I wrote. Final doesn't mean failure. Some marriages don't end with screams or slammed doors. Sometimes they just fold quietly into memory. Today, my name stood alone on a page that used to share space. And for once, I didn't miss the echo. I closed the journal, rested it beside me, and looked up. The sky was full, not just of stars, but of space, for something new. Mia asked me a question that stopped me cold the following weekend. We were in the kitchen, her hands dusted with flour, rolling out dough for the cinnamon rolls we had no business trying to make from scratch. She was smiling, singing under her breath, sunlight catching in her hair like it had a job to do. Then, out of nowhere, she looked up at me and asked, "Do you think Mom ever really loved you?" I didn't answer right away, didn't even move, just stared at the rolling pin like maybe it held the words I needed. She didn't press. She just kept working, humming the chorus of some song I didn't recognize, like she knew I'd answer when I was ready. And I did. Eventually. I think, I said slowly, your mom loved me in the way she knew how. But sometimes love isn't enough if the person giving it doesn't know how to hold it without squeezing too tight or letting go too fast. Mia blinked. So, yes and no. I smiled, impressed. Yeah. Something like that. She nodded. I don't think she knows how to love herself very much. 12 years old. And already seeing people clearer than they see themselves. That might be true, I said, voice quiet, but you don't have to carry that for her. I know, she said. I just wish you hadn't been the one who got hurt. I reached over, wiped flour from her cheek with the side of my thumb. Me too, sweetheart. But sometimes getting hurt is how we learn we're stronger than we thought. We finished the rolls. They were terrible. Dry, uneven, undercooked in the middle, but we laughed so hard eating them that it felt like joy had taken root in our house, finally unafraid to stay a while. Later that night, after Mia was asleep and the dishes were drying in the rack, I stood at the window and thought about her question again. Did Madison ever love me? Yeah, I think she did. But love, when built on ego or fear, turns into something fragile. And once it breaks, it cuts deeper than hate ever could. I grabbed my journal and wrote, love that's afraid to be seen, ends up hiding, in plain sight. She might have loved me, but only in the shadows, never in the light, and I don't want a quiet kind of love, ever again. The next morning, there was a knock at my door. It was Madison. She looked thinner, paler, not sick, just emptied out in that way people get when they've finally burned through all the stories they told themselves. I was in the neighborhood, she said. I didn't move. What do you need? She hesitated. I came to say thank you. That wasn't the sentence I expected. For what? For not making this uglier than it had to be, she said. For not dragging me. For not poisoning Mia's view of me. I nodded. I'd never do that. She's yours as much as she's mine. I know, she said. And I've realized lately. I didn't leave because of Eli. I left because I couldn't stand the way you loved me. It made me feel too small. Like I didn't deserve it. I didn't say anything. Because some truths just need to hang in the air for a second. I'm sorry, she whispered. I looked at her, really looked, and I saw it. Regret, yeah. But not the kind that asks for another chance. The kind that finally stops lying. You don't have to be forgiven, I said. But thank you for being honest. She nodded once, stepped back, and walked down the steps like someone lighter than when they arrived. That night, I wrote, closure isn't a door slamming. It's a soft knock. An apology with no agenda. A thank you that doesn't ask for a second chance. She left again, but this time, it didn't hurt. And maybe, that was the whole point. To be free of the ache, even when the memory knocks. I didn't plan on seeing Claire again that week, but on Thursday, after a long day at work and a sunset that reminded me too much of conversations that never got finished, I found myself walking past her bookstore. I paused by the front window, saw the warm glow of desk lamps and shelves lined with stories that had already made it through their endings. She was at the register, hair tied up, laughing with some kid who couldn't have been older than 10, handing him a bag with a sticker on it. And just like that, I stepped inside. She looked up when the bell rang. No coffee this time, she teased. Didn't want to show up empty-handed, I said, pulling a half-wrapped box from my coat. Figured I owed you a better thank you than a cold cup and silence. She raised an eyebrow, smiling. You brought me something. I handed it over. She unwrapped it carefully, deliberately. Inside was a leather-bound journal. Simple. Unwritten. On the inside cover, I'd scribbled a line from one of our conversations. The story you don't expect is often the one that saves you. Claire looked at the words for a long second, then closed the journal gently, like it was made of something sacred. You want to sit? She asked. So we did. There was no big moment, no dramatic confession. We didn't kiss. We didn't touch. We just sat in the quiet way two people sit when they're learning to trust stillness again. She told me about her dad's old record collection, how she used to steal his Springsteen vinyls and play them too loud on purpose. I told her about the time Mia tried to build a robot out of paper towel rolls and tape and introduced it to me as her emotional support toaster. She laughed so hard she spilled her tea. I like the way you talk about her, she said after a while. She saved me, I replied, not even needing to think about it. Claire looked at me then, not with pity, not with pressure, but with that rare kind of grace that says, I'll wait, no matter what the pace is. I'm not ready, I said. You don't have to be, she replied. We didn't speak for the next few minutes. The bookstore hummed around us. Life moved, but we sat still, and still felt safe. When I got home that night, Mia had already texted. Mia, you good, Dad? Me, yeah, real good. You okay? Mia, totally. Just wanted to make sure you weren't being too adult and forgetting to eat. Me, tacos again. Don't judge me. Mia, never. I stood in the kitchen a long while after that. No TV, no music. Just the creak of the fridge and the soft tick of the wall clock. The house felt lived in now, not haunted. The air didn't carry old arguments anymore, just the smell of leftover tortillas and a new kind of quiet. I sat at the table, opened my journal, and wrote. She didn't walk in with fireworks. She walked in with calm, with honesty, with a bookstore that smells like second chances, and a laugh that doesn't ask for anything but room to grow. I'm not in love, not yet, but for the first time since being erased, I'm visible to someone who sees without needing to rewrite me, and for once, the words felt more like a beginning than a reflection. My birthday came around a few weeks later. I didn't plan anything, didn't tell anyone, really. I didn't need a big gesture, didn't want balloons or a surprise dinner, just wanted to feel the day pass by without grief sitting in the passenger seat. Mia knew, of course. She showed up after school with a bag of donuts and a handmade card that said, "Dad, the human pancake. You're not allowed to be sad today," she said, climbing onto the kitchen counter like she always did when she wanted to make a statement. "House rules." "Understood," I said, full compliance. She pulled a small gift from her backpack. "I made you something." It was a tiny sculpture, lopsided, painted purple, shaped kind of like a heart and kind of like a shield. "It's a heart guard," she explained. "So next time someone tries to break your heart, this'll catch it." I laughed. And then, yeah, I cried. Just a little. She didn't flinch. Just hugged me tight. We ate donuts and watched cartoons until almost midnight. It was the most ridiculous and perfect birthday I'd ever had. And sometime during that night, after she was asleep on the couch and the house was still, I walked to the bookshelf, pulled down the old journal, the one I had started when everything fell apart, and flipped to the back cover. There was no more space to write, but I ran my hand across the worn leather anyway, like you might do to a door you're about to close for the last time. Then I picked up the journal Mia had given me, the new one. The one that still smelled like her strawberry-scented markers. First page still clean, still waiting. I took a breath. Then I wrote, "This journal isn't for heartbreak. It's for rebirth. For laughter in the kitchen. And donuts on birthdays. For daughters who stay when wives walk out. For bookstores and quiet smiles. And coffee that never comes with guilt. For peace that doesn't beg to be seen. This time, I am not a footnote in someone else's story. I am the author. And the next chapter, it begins with love that never had to ask for a place at the table." I signed the bottom of the page with just my first name, because that was enough. I didn't need to be her husband anymore. Didn't need to be the one who was forgotten or the guy they laughed about behind a velvet rope. I was just me, David, a man with a house full of drawings, a heart guarded by clay and trust, a daughter who believed in him, and a life, unfinished, maybe, but finally honest.